Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Super Soldier Talk. I'm James Rink, the host here, and we have a great show today. We're going to be speaking a little bit about the secret space program in relation to Star Trek. And today with us is Captain Jimmy Paine. Captain Paine, why don't you go ahead and say hello? Are you there? Jimmy, well, okay.
Yes, I'm here, James.
Great. How you doing today?
Real good, just getting settled in for the evening.
Very good. And I was just explaining earlier that I was trying to hook up my mic, but I unplugged it because I had my Trezor hardware wallet plugged in because it was hooked up to my wallet, which was not on Trezor, and someone hacked it. So I lost about $500 of Theta coin. So whoever you are out there, go enjoy those coins. But anyway, enough of that. We uh, so today we're going to be speaking about the Enterprise, and Jimmy says that he served on the Enterprise. His experiences were based on the 1989 film Star Trek V: The Final Frontier, and that was where they were doing the search of God. And they say like every odd number film was a flop. So so I think you were in based on the whale. What was the whales? That was that three where they were doing the search for the whales, and we talked about that in the last episode where they picked up the Loch Nessie. It wasn't a whale; it was Loch Nessie, and they brought it up. Anyway, okay, all right. So Jimmy Paine was on the Enterprise. What was it? 1960s? Because the original Star Trek series came out 67 to 69. So when were you stationed on the Enterprise, Jimmy?
James, I would say the early 80s is when I first got on it, or when I became associated with the Vulcans.
All right. So could you explain how the show in 1967 occurred before you were there? Was there time travel involved?
There's always time travel, James. Now, Stardate is not the same as our timeline. Um, the Stardate is based upon the star that um, is where the planet that Spock lives on. It's not our uh, timeline. It's the Vulcan timeline.
Hence 78429.
I'm sorry. What now?
Stardate 78429 is our current star date. I had to look it up. Unless you're counting, they have a different way of calculating it, and then they have a negative because supposedly it was like Zephyr Cochrane's invention of the star drive is when they started calculating. Okay, Jimmy. All right, let's go on here. So, uh, in the previous show, we discussed how you knew Spock and also Lieutenant Uhura, who were both Vulcans. They were 4 foot tall elf beings that come from the Vulcan homeworld. And all right, so let's just go into this, Jimmy. So tell us, you wanted to speak about Spock today. So what, or maybe where should we begin with all this?
Well, I think we can start off and just try to explain it. Um, Now, this starts off, if you watch the movie The Final Frontier, it starts off with me climbing, or shall I say, James Kirk, which is a fictitious name, uh, climbing El Capitan mountain. And he loses his grip and he falls, and Spock catches him by his ankles right before he hits the ground. Now, that part is true. Um, I was free climbing El Capitan. Now, it had never been climbed by hand. I was attempting to do it, and I was up about 2/3 of the way. Now, a couple of years later, there was an individual that did climb it by hand and get to the top. So I was not the first one to attempt it. Um, I was merely there for rest and relaxation when that occurred. But what I'm dealing with is if you watch one of the other Star Trek movies, you'll see Spock die in the propulsion room, taking a crystal out and moving it. We're not going to go into that movie. But what I'm dealing with at that current timeline that you're looking at when I am communicating with Spock is that he has been cloned and he still hasn't gotten all of his memories back. He originally died in the propulsion room, and what you're looking at this area or at this timeline, you're looking at the clone Spock, and he's trying to get back his memory. And we're camping with the doctor McCoy, and we're just having a three men that are on R and we're trying to build our lives up. You have basically three males who are really don't have a whole lot of family, and um, and that's why we're on the camping trip, James.
Sorry, there's so many buttons to press. Yeah, so I was trying to find the where so Spock was sent off to this. I think it was called the Genesis Project. It was to terraform a whole planet like instantly, and then
Yes, but
Spock's body was sent down there and died. And then
yes, but we don't want to go into that area
okay,
because that's a whole different show. It's very in depth. So I want to back out of that. But what I'm having problems with is him trying to remember us, and he has some memory, but he's grappling with it. Now, while we're on the camping trip and we are sitting around the bonfire, or shall I say, the campfire, um, we're singing a song, "Row, row, row your boat." Um, it's a silly song, but uh, you have to remember we don't have any communication with us. We want to get away from all that and just R. But um, the word came up about what will become of us, and I told McCoy and Spark, I said, well, I can't go home because I have no family, and I know that I would die alone. And so each man reflects upon that, that we will eventually all die. But during the night after we all turn into our sleeping bags, um, we were awakened, and there had been a priority 7 alert. That is, the Enterprise that was orbiting Earth was had gotten a distress call, a priority 7, and once we got back aboard the craft after we left Earth and got back onto the craft, um, I was informed by Captain Bob. I would say his first name is Bob, another Starfleet captain, that to head to Nimbus 3, and that there's a three hostages that's been taken there, and we're to go there and rescue them. One was a Romulan, one was a Klingon, and he had one guy from the Federation. His name is Tobin. Was his name. Um, so they're very high up. Uh, one's a General Cord, the Klingon. Um, he's there on Nimbus 3, as well as a Romulan that is down there, female. And then you have um, a Federation guy, Tobin, that's there, that's been taken hostage. So we depart. This, the Enterprise has gone through a shakedown. You know, a lot of testing has been going on that craft, and we head to Nimbus 3, and we go down in the Galileo. That's the shuttlecraft. And when we get there, um, we go into a little town called I think the town was called not real sure what the name of the little town was, but it's a little town that is basically just out in the middle of nowhere. The Nimbus 3 is not a developed planet, okay? And we have a short battle trying to break into this town or this fort, and I go into what is a bar, and I get attacked by a hybrid human, a cat woman, get all scratched up. Uh, so you do see that in the movie. That is a true part there in that movie. But come to find out, the guy that did the kidnapping or the hold him hostage, his name is Sovak. Excuse me, Skyback. Skybach, excuse me. Skybach was his name. Now he's a Vulcan. And once he's been confronted, you know, he's in control. We're just outnumbered by him. And we end up, he calls Spark brother. And I kind of took it wrong. I thought when he said brother, he's talking towards a fellow Vulcan. Now, Spark acted like he didn't know who he was, and he didn't at first. He didn't know who he was. But come to find out that Cybok is Spark's half brother. Now, there's an age difference, maybe about 7 or 8 years between the two brothers. And what it is, Spark's father, his name is Sovak, and he married another woman, well, she was a princess, and she had, um, she gave birth to Spock, excuse me, Spock.
So Spock
Uh,
is royalty.
well, his the woman that that gave birth was a princess. She was a princess. Now the midwife that delivered Spock she had on a head a cap like we see a nurse have on their cap a cap on their head. She wore like uh, a feather arrangement on her head, and then she had like a butterfly or a symbol of a butterfly or either a dragonfly, but some type of insect was how that hat was made, the front of the hat. So apparently they use either a butterfly or a dragonfly um, as the headwear.
Well, Jimmy, can you confirm that he was a full-blooded Vulcan or a hybrid human? Wasn't he supposed to be like Amanda Grayson? Was a human mother?
Well, the mother she's Vulcan, but I'm thinking she's got some human in her. Okay, I'm not real sure. Now, the reason I know this is that when Cybok took control of the Enterprise, I asked right before he took control, I ordered Spock to kill him, and Spock would not. Spock would not shoot Cybok. And after questioning him later, he admits that is his half brother.
There's
That
what,
is
yeah, Cybok.
Cybok is his half brother.
Ah,
Okay, he didn't remember his brother when he first saw him, but it was only after a while being around him that he started to recall him.
because it says
So
right here he was the firstborn son of the Vulcan ambassador Sarek and the Vulcan princess during the first half of the 23rd century, and it was also the elder half brother of Officer Spock. Huh.
yeah, well, they, it's kind of. So I didn't know he had a brother. Okay, that was the first time I saw him, and um, so I'm trying to absorb all this in. But getting back to the story, he could mind melt. He mind melted with McCoy, and I saw McCoy's daddy appear. In other words, he's able to make your thoughts materialize. He's able to make your thoughts materialize. And I actually saw Spock's mother give birth to Spock. Even though she wasn't really there, I was able to see the image that Spock was seeing.
So Jimmy, what was it like to go through a mind meld?
I didn't go through it. I didn't let him touch me. He touched McCoy and he touched Spock, but I wouldn't let him touch me. I told him that I needed my pain, that I could live with my pain, and but he was gifted once he took his hand and spread his fingers out and touched you on your temple. He was able to make whatever you thought appear like a hologram. Now he didn't use any type of device. He just had that ability, that type of ability to make it appear. I don't know how he did it.
All right, so okay, and let's go on here. So, what point did Cybok seek God, or is it yeah? Well, according to the movie, yeah. Anyway,
Well, he actually said something on Nimbus 3, but when he said Shakari, that did not register with me. I had never heard of Shakari. What he did, he faked a hostage situation to lure a starship in and then to take control of the starship. Okay, him being a Vulcan, he knew how the starship worked. Only other person that knew that was Spock. That he knew how the ship operated. Now there were changes done to that craft that he wasn't all the way up on, but he had a good general idea how the craft operated. But getting back to Shakari, um, that is like we have what we think of Atlantis is that what they think of Shakari? Okay, their Shakari is like our Atlantis,
Or maybe a Shangri-La.
Shangri-La, whatever how you want to pronounce it.
It was a
Uh,
castle in the sky. Hmm.
the, they, like I said, um, it's where their creator is at. Okay, see, it goes back to who am I, where am I going, what happens to me when I die, kind of a deal. Okay, and you know when I was like I said when I was at um, down in on Earth climbing El Capitan, I did have a talk, with Spock about death and everything. And it's very ironic that his brother comes along not long after that. So I honestly believe that he could have read him prior to that event. Your brother knows you best. Okay. So he definitely being since him being older, he knew his younger brother. He knew his weaknesses of his younger brother.
Okay, so let's go on here. I'm just looking for some more artwork to share. But okay, Shakari. Let's see here. According to Cybok, he says, consider the questions of existence. Who am I? Why am I here? Does God exist? These are the questions man has ever asked since he first gazed at the stars and dreamed. My Vulcan ancestors were ruled by their emotions. They felt with their hearts, and made love with their hearts, and believe with their hearts. Above all else, they believe in a place where these questions of existence would have been answered. Modern dogma tells us this place is a myth, Shakari, a fantasy concocted by pagans. It is no fantasy. I tell you, it exists. My brothers, we have been chosen to undertake the greatest adventure of all time, the discovery of Shakari. Is that accurate? Do you remember him
Yes,
saying that
yes,
word for word?
it is very, very accurate. Now, what is so odd here is that uh, the two brothers are very different. You have one that deals in logic. Spock deals in logic. This and Spock never stated anything about religion. I'm not saying he's atheist. I'm saying he never spoke of it. But the brother did speak of it. If there's anything, he's more human than Spock is.
Well,
This,
Vulcans are what, taught to suppress their emotions.
yeah, but this one didn't suppress. He didn't suppress his emotions. That was so odd about it. So he's a very different type of a Vulcan. Because every Vulcan I ever saw, they never spoke of any type of religion. He's the only one that I've ever encountered that spoke of it.
Very good. All right. So the renegade Vulcan Cybok embarked on a quest to locate Shakari, recruiting a large number of followers via a telepathic manipulation. By 2287, he was finally able to acquire the control of the USS Enterprise A using this technique. And while aboard, Cybok informed Captain Kirk that he had located Shakari via visions given to him by God himself. Although Kirk initially thought Cybok to be mad, his visions seemed to be proven correct when, after successfully penetrating the barrier, why don't you talk about the barrier? The Enterprise crew encountered a planet on the other side.
Well, the barrier is basically, all right, it's the edge of space. It's other words where they have maps and charts. This goes beyond any known area that they know about. They've sent probes into the Great Barrier, but none of them never came back, or none of them never communicated back. Now, when we were going towards it, uh, I would not go into the barrier because one, I am the senior officer in charge, although the craft is being taken over by Spock's brother. All right, so what I did for legal reasons was I did not give the order to go into it. Uh, I was placed in uh, the head of the ship into a different area of the ship while the two brothers was in the control room, the flight room, and it was only right before uh, they went into it that uh, Spock started to talk back to me, and I informed him that I wanted all the electronic equipment cut off on the Enterprise because I was concerned, one, that the electrical storm that would damage the electronics in there. If those electronics are damaged, then the Enterprise is basically all your life support systems are kept operating by the electronics. So I told them to cut all the electronics off prior to them entering the Great Barrier.
All
Now,
right.
what it's basically it's electrical storm is what it is going into it. You're mute, James.
I'm so sorry. I pressed. Okay. Okay. After Captain Kirk believed that the Enterprise would be destroyed in the attempt, Cybok maintained that the danger posed by the barrier was simply an illusion, an expression of the universal fear of the unknown. Cybok was ultimately proven correct when the ship passed through with no ill effects. In addition, the Enterprise encountered a planet on the other side of the barrier, seemingly confirming Cybok's vision. Can you tell us a little bit about the planet? Is that the truth? Is that the truth?
All right. Well, first of all, it was danger in the barrier. It was tremendously dangerous. Had none of the electronics been cut off, it would have fried every circuit on that craft. So Cybok is incorrect when he said that uh, it was all in our mind. Okay, if those life support systems shut down, that everybody will die on the Enterprise. So he would have brought the Enterprise into it with all electronics on had I not ordered the electronics to be cut off. He did know a lot about the Enterprise, but the Enterprise had been worked on, um, been rewired. Okay, you have to remember you have humans on there that's running all type of wiring throughout the ship. So he knew it, but then again, he didn't know all of it. But now, getting back to what was on the other side of the barrier, there was a planet. It was about the size of Mars, and in fact, it looked very much like our what we see in our southwestern United States is a very arid planet with no vegetation.
All
I
right.
didn't I didn't see any type of
Well,
vegetation on it.
Jimmy, quick question. So, how long did it take to go from planet Earth to the barrier?
James, uh, you have to remember, we're away from our sun. Okay, I don't have an Earth clock on the Enterprise. Only clock I have is the Stardate clock. Okay. Now I can tell you this. Um, it took about 7 to 8 hours of going through the barrier with the electronics, all the electronic equipment cut off. It took about 7 to 8 hours of flying through this storm before we got out of it and saw the planet on the other side. You have to remember when you're in space, there's no sunrise or no sunset. The only time you have is the star date clock. So when you ask me how many days, I can't tell you.
So this barrier, does it surround the entire Milky Way galaxy?
James, all I can tell you is that it's at the end of the known galaxy. Okay, they all they go out. It's like a map. You have a map, and you're trying to get to a certain place, but right before you get to it, you run out of map, and you can't see what's on the next page. That you know what I mean? Uh, the map, the known routes went so far, and then it stops by the Great Barrier. The Great Barrier is like is like is like fog. You can't see through it.
And that's why you couldn't just warp through it to get through it real fast.
Well, James, would you jump in your car and step on the gas, go 100 miles an hour through pitch black, not pitch black, but uh, through dense fog if you couldn't see your hand in front of you?
Do you have shields on? I'm just
It
kidding.
doesn't matter. It be you. You be. What I'm saying is, would you drive down interstate highway if you could not see your hand in front of you? If it's fog outside, okay.
Well,
It's
but my understanding is you warp through this dimension, so
how do you know you're not going to
you
warp
phase
into a
through.
planet?
Okay.
How do you know you're not going to
Well,
hit
you have
a
an
planet?
AI running the ship. The AI specifically.
James, you
Yes.
can't cut the electronics on because
Yes, that's right.
it'll
Yeah,
fry it.
makes sense. All right, so you got through finally, and it looks like a desert world. Shock array. So tell us what happens next.
Well, when we saw it, uh, we orbited around it. It looked a lot like our southwest United States. I didn't see any water. Now, we took a shuttle down, the Galileo, and it was me, Spock, and his brother, and McCoy. We all went down there onto the surface of the planet. Now, the first 2.5, 3 hours, we saw nothing. I mean, we saw nothing. No sign of life, just nothing. And then Cybok spoke out like he's calling, you know, uh, Shakari. He's calling the god. And when he was calling him, it started to get dark. Now, I don't know why it got dark because there it wasn't an eclipse. There was no eclipse, but somehow it got dark. And when it did get dark, the weather, it got much cooler. And then there was an earth tremor, and these big stone pillars came up out of the surface of the ground. I would say about 30 or so of these pillars, and it formed an arch or something similar to what you see over in England, like Stonehenge is the best way I could describe it. Um, and then uh, this god appears in there, But see, it's one name but many faces, many different types of gods, but only one God. It can have many different images, but only one name.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Spock says, "Is this the voice of God? One voice, many faces."
Yes,
Did he say that?
yes.
All
The
right.
word is very. In fact, the entire conversation with God is word for word. So the writer, apparently that wasn't blocked out. You know, the soft intelligence report that came down, uh, that was very accurate. Just the names were changed, but the word is very correct.
Oh wow. Okay, so let's see here. Now God asked for the ship to help with its spread of wisdom through the universe.
Yes.
So Cybok wanted to oblige, but Captain Kirk was suspicious of his motives and asked why God would need a ship. Is that true, Jimmy?
Yeah, that was my first mistake is asking God, why did he need a starship? Now, see, with me, like I said, Cybok is highly religious, and then the younger brother is trailing the older brother. Okay, his brother is like running the show, and then when I asked God, why did he need a starship? That's when God asked Cybok, well, who is this creature? He called me a creature first. He didn't call me a man. So you have to remember your creator creates you in his image. He called me a creature. And
But
the
did it look okay? So did it like possess Cybok, or did it create like its own ectoplasmatic cloud? What did it look like?
it created its own it can create any image that you wanted. Whatever image you believed in, it could mimic it. Whatever image that you think God is, it could simulate that image.
So was everybody seeing different things? Or
No,
y'all?
well, I know what I saw was different types of gods uh, before he settled on the last one. Now, I believe the image that you see in the movie, that's the image that I saw. But the image that Cybok saw could not have been the same image. In other words, each man saw a different image of the same God.
Yeah, that's what I said. Okay. All right. So let's see here. So at that point, God shot energy beams from his eyes at the Starfleet. Oh, at you.
Me. He shot
Yeah.
it at me. He hit me first. It was more like a taser how he hit me. And kind of like I had a bad sunburn where he, this beam hit me at on my chest, and then Spock spoke up, and then he attacked Spock, and by that time Cybok, as he's starting, to come around, that he may have made a mistake, and then McCoy jumped up, and McCoy started arguing with God. Of course, McCoy was more like doing his preaching. Well, the God don't do this and God don't do that. Um, but it was Cybok is the one who finally realized that it was a fake uh, entity. It wasn't the real thing, and then he wanted to mind melt with it to try to kill it, or at least to occupy it long enough where me his brother and McCoy could escape.
This almost seems something like the creature was Satan or something like that.
James, it could be anything that you wanted it to be.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
All right.
whatever image that you think the creator is, it could take that image.
So Cybok sacrifices life by thrusting himself into the entities, which he said the mind meld, so the Enterprise crew could escape. Now, what happened when he once he mind meld?
He jumped into the beam of the plasma beam or the plasma field. Correction there, plasma field. He jumped into it. That was the last time I saw him. And once he jumped in there, there was a disturbance. And now in the movie, it shows me opening up my communicator, telling the Enterprise to fire a proton torpedo. That's not so. I never said fire a proton torpedo. What I said was for them to fire their phasers. The phasers are more pinpoint. It wouldn't do as much damage to the surrounding area like a proton would do.
All
And
right. So you teleported out, and then
no, I didn't teleport. Once we were able to get the Enterprise to fire the lasers at it, it knocked it down, and we thought it had destroyed it, but it didn't. Okay, we what we did was we left the area because it was seismically unstable because it had been, the ground had been weakened, and we went back to the Galileo, that is the shuttle, all of us except Cybok. And then once we got in the shuttle, then we could hear this god or this entity outside making all kind of strange sounds. It was very frightening because the sounds weren't normal human sounds. It was a sound. It was a sound of the creature that was mimicking God, and apparently it had some type of an emotional tangent, and it wanted to get into the craft, and there wasn't enough power to beam all of us up. So I had McCoy and Spock to beam up. I stayed behind because it was, Spock was necessary for the Enterprise, and McCoy. Um, there's no way that he could have fought this creature. It was just, you know, he had been through, like I said, a nervous breakdown because Cybok was able to make him see his father die. Uh, Bones' father died of a terminal disease, and he had relived it, and he was all shooken up by that experience.
okay. So Jimmy, the ship was in orbit, correct?
The Enterprise, yes,
Yeah.
the the Enterprise was orbiting the Nimbus, not Nimbus, but um, Shakari. It was circling the planet. Now the shuttle was on the planet with me.
So it was trying to get into the shuttle.
Yeah, I had those two beam up, and I just stayed behind. And then I stayed in the craft for maybe towards dark, which dark it wasn't that long till dark would have been upon us. I would say maybe about 2 hours in the craft alone, and I was waiting till the sun went down, and then I opened up the hatch and got out of the shuttle, and I noticed that this creature. See, you give out your body gives off body heat. All right, And like if you have imaging equipment, you can see something that has heat if you look through imaging equipment. So what I thought was if I got next to the rocks, to the hilly side, the rocky area, see the rocks hold heat. I could camouflage myself by getting around the rocks. And that was my plan, was to get up into the rocks and try to get as far away from the shuttle as I could and lose this creature, and then hope by the time that the Enterprise built up enough power that they could just beam me up at another location.
Hmm. Okay. Well, did you notice that was a craft clawing at the shuttlecraft? Yeah, I'm sorry, the creature was it clawing at the shuttlecraft?
James, it wanted in. It just, I mean, it made strange noises. It mimicked human noise. It mimicked like a human that's under stress, but it wasn't a human.
Hmm.
But it wanted in, but it echoed. Um, it's like you're hearing an echo from far off, and it could be far off at one time, and the next time it could be right upon you. I don't know if that
Do you,
makes any sense
do you
to
think it
you.
was physical or some kind of energy body,
It
perhaps?
was energy. It never physically manifest itself. It was a form of energy.
Hmm.
It's like if you go to a drive-in and you're in your vehicle, and there's a film projector, but it's putting the image on a drive-in screen at a drive-in theater. Okay, you could just look up and see this image. Uh, if it was uh, by a mountain, or if it was in the sky, you just see the image there. Kind of like Project Bluebeam, it'd just be an image there, a hologram.
Right. So we have the human image portrayed by the god of Shakare was portrayed. Okay, the image of the Andorian god as well as other two unidentified gods were part of the images. So does this look familiar, Jimmy? Is this what you saw?
It was all kinds of images, James. It could be any image it wanted you to think it was. It's kind of like it's going through several images till it figures out which one you take notice in, and the image you take notice in, that's what it's going to stay as.
Hmm, I don't know. This is the Apocrypha, according to Q Continuum. The Shakare entity was known as the One, and is exiled to the center of the galaxy. Well, it wouldn't be the center of the galaxy. It would be the edge of the galaxy for causing civil war around the premature destruction of a legendary Tikon empire. Is this any of this?
I don't know anything about that, James. A
Some of
lot
the
of that stuff you see on there is storybook stuff. They take they take it, Shakari, and then they start adding stuff to it.
Jerry, did you? Jerry's in the chat. Did you write this part? But the Apocrypha? Oh no, that was
No, I didn't write any of that.
okay. Well, I was talking to Jerry Lehane. He says he wrote the
Oh,
Star Trek series, at least some of it.
well, what they do, they take an intelligence report that's been blacked out, and the writers just fill in the blank spaces for the movie, and that's a form of soft disclosure. They're making up. You have to remember they have to make it interesting. They have to make up a few things because that's what makes movies sell. But yeah, they're giving a rough draft of the intelligence report.
All right. Well, that's it for this one here. But we can. I found something here we can pull up. This one's interesting. So give me a moment here, Jimmy. We're gonna go more about that. It says here the barrier, actually, because I asked this question earlier, in the center of the galaxy, we're only 6.7 hours away from Nimbus 3 in the neutral zone at warp 7. Is that is that true? Did you go at warp? Do you remember if you went at warp 7? Oh, well, I'm
Ju-
sorry. You guys can't even see what I'm saying. There.
It did. It was about 6 or 7 hours, I would say, but you have to remember there's no sun that I can go by. Okay, I don't even have a watch on my wrist. The only clock I have is the Stardate clock in the Enterprise. But I'm just saying, just by my thought, it probably was about 6 or 7 hours,
Hmm.
but I have no way to confirm it.
The diameter of the Great Barrier is approximately 15,000 light years. Oh, okay.
Well, first of all, they don't know how deep it is because nothing's never come out of it that they shot into it. So
So that's
I
actually
don't know how they come up with the figures.
that's like fictional, and they're talking about the Q continuum. Did you? Is that true too? The Q.
James, I never even heard of it till just
Okay.
now.
Oh, okay. All right. With that, I'm trying to. Does anyone remember who the actor of Q? Did I think Q? Okay. All right. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. So what happened next? So after that, what happened? You got off. They picked you up.
Well, what happened was while I was on the planet trying to evade this entity, I crawled up in some rocks because I knew the rocks held heat, and that was camouflage where this entity couldn't track me very well. But when I got up on top of the ridge, or as I was going up the side of the this rocky ledge there, um, a Klingon warship appeared, and it was one that had been chasing me or been going after me. Um, there was an officer by the name of I'm trying to think of his name.
Is it
Oh,
Worf?
Kala, 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 Captain Kala. Now he's a young uh, Klingon that had heard about me, and he wanted to be the first one to get to kill a human. See, they never fought a human in before. The Klingons are historically not very friendly towards humans. Okay, now you have to remember General Cord is a Klingon, but he was already retired. He was already put out, and he was part of that going with Cybok to find God. And but General Cord got to know me, and he ordered um, Captain Claw to disengage, to not try to fight me. In fact, he made that Captain Claw uh, apologize to me. But I don't know how they knew that I was, in charge of the Enterprise. I guess word gets out, and he wanted to be the first to engage, a human and defeat him in space, but he never did. But
Okay.
I will say he's pretty brave to go into the Great Barrier because he was definitely after me. He followed me in there, and that took a lot of nerve to go into the Great Barrier.
Um. Okay, Jimmy. So at this point, you're hiding amongst the rocks, and then instead of the Enterprise rescue you, the Klingons rescue you, but it wasn't really a rescue. It was
Well, I wasn't hiding in the rocks. I was using the rocks as cover as I was moving. I was steadily on the move. I wasn't hiding. It just makes it hard to see for the god to capture me or to harm me. Now, when I got right at the top of the cliff, there's no other place for me to go. And just as I'm going to the top of the cliff, I look up and there's a Klingon warbird, a, a, a starship, a Klingon starship that suddenly appeared, and it turned its weapon and it fired into the into God, or the God light form, and disrupted uh, its force. I don't think that it could be destroyed. I think you could disrupt it long enough to break free, but it seemed to be able to reconstitute itself after you knocked it back down. But it was enough to knock it back that they went ahead and teleported me onto the Klingon warcraft. And when I was teleported in, I was very surprised because Spock was in the captain's chair operating the Klingon vessel. Now, General Core was in there, and he had taken charge of the Klingon vessel. He had relieved Captain Claw.
okay, but Cord would have had to been already on there when Claw was on this mission.
I'm sorry, repeat now.
Cord, General Cord would have had to already been on. Was it a bird of prey? Is that
Yeah, it was a bird of prey. It was a warship.
all right? A bird of prey. So Claw's on this manhunt for this death match duel that he wants to do with you, but Cord is already on the ship, right?
Yeah, yeah. Once they found out that there's a Klingon warship, then General Cord wanted uh, to be on that warship. He didn't want to be on the Enterprise. He wanted to be on the warship because, one, to make it disengage. The warship, well, the Klingon ship was unauthorized for that attack. And
Okay, but wait, Jimmy, was the Cleon ship working for the Federation too on the same mission? Were you working together initially?
I'm sorry, repeat your question.
What were the Cleons and the Vulcans of Federation, the Enterprise, were they working together initially?
When it first started, it started on Nimbus 3. Now, Nimbus 3 is a shared planet. The Federation went into an agreement with the Klingon and the Romulan Star Empire.
Romulan,
So
yeah.
it's run by three enterprise,
Yeah, it's
not
shared by three
enterprise,
different, yeah,
three different
world, yeah.
worlds. It's a business arrangement where they're going to develop this planet, and uh, General Cord is retired, so he's trying to get in on making some money here. Okay, now when he saw the Klingon bird of bird of prey, you know, he simply uh, teleported onto the ship and relieved the uh, the captain of that vessel. He took charge of that vessel. Is what
Okay.
he did.
All right, so Cord was with originally with the Federation at first on the ship, the Enterprise.
He was on the Enterprise because Cybok. See, they all they all are looking for God. General Cord is looking for God. Cybok is looking for God. The Roman prime minister is looking for God, or they seek God. When Cybok,
So a Romulan, a Prime Minister, was aboard the Enterprise as well.
yeah,
but weren't they all those people at war at that? Well, I guess whatever. Okay. Um, Interesting. So at this point, did Cord already General Cord? Did he already take over the Enterprise when you got beamed up by the Romulan? I'm sorry, the Vulcans.
He never did take over the Enterprise. Who took over the
Well,
Enterprise was
the Bird of
Cybok.
Prey. Yeah. The
Now,
okay.
the Bird of Prey, yes, he took over. He took over the uh, the Bird of Prey. All right, he's like a legend. He's like, all right, let me try to explain. He's like a what he is to the Klingons is like George Patton to the Americans. Like we think of George Patton, the Klingons think of General Cord.
All right.
Okay, that's
Awesome.
their hero. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a war hero that's been, you know, said his goodbye, and he has gone into retirement, and he is, pursuing interest um, in this agreement to develop Nimbus 3.
Okay. Great. So, but when the Bird of Prey teleported you on board their ship, I guess General Cord was already in charge of the ship with
Yeah,
Spock and.
Gen- General Cord was in charge of it. He made all the Vulcans, excuse me, he made all the Klingons stand down. All right. Now Spock was in the command chair. So that's telling me something for a Vulcan to sit in a command chair, and for Captain Claw, uh, being relieved of his duty.
All right. So, Jimmy, you got aboard the Bird of Prey. What happened next?
Well, once I was aboard, I grabbed Spock by his shoulders, and Spock said, "Please, not here." Um, I was just glad to be back on there, is what I was saying. I didn't think I was going to get off of that planet. I was in a hell of a situation, climbing all those rocks, and I was at the end of whatever it was trying to do. It was getting ready to attack me.
When you were near the cliff, did you see the entity coming towards you?
Yes,
And
yes,
describe what it looked like.
very scary.
Did
Whatever it
it,
was,
did
it
it still
believed.
look like God?
Yes, it it wanted to put the fear of God in you. Okay, it. Other words, God can be a punishing God. Okay, it wanted to put the fear of God in you.
Okay. Wow. At this point, you get back, and um, Cybok is dead at this point, right?
Sabak
It's gone.
is dead. He
Okay.
apparently, when he went into that plasma field, it killed him.
All right. And when you got back, did you talk amongst yourselves that basically maybe God is not what you yeah recognize?
Towards the end, if you watch the movie, you see me and McCoy and Spock, in the frontal part of the Enterprise, and we're standing next to the ship wheel, the Enterprise ship wheel. Let me say something before we go on. First, the old ship wheel that I brought up is not from the Enterprise. I got that out of an antique store on the West Coast, and it was of a ship that broke up at sea that nobody did know the name of the ship. And I got that old ship wheel and brought it up onto the Enterprise. and you see that in the background. Okay, um, and and while I am talking to Spock and McCoy, we're kind of talking at the end of the movie, and we're talking about, where is God? Because we've had an experience, and we're sharing it amongst ourselves. And um, I was asked, I think McCoy asked, where is God? And I said, He's right here. And I took my hand, I closed my fist, and I put it over my heart. Now, like you open your hand to say, and you put your hand over your heart, um, Klingons make the salute by closing their fist and putting it over their heart. Okay, so I did that, and I said maybe he's here, maybe he's here, right here, and that's when I closed my hand and put it over my heart. All right, and it goes back towards the end of the movie. We're all around the campfire, but I've always said that I would die alone. So it goes back to who am I? Where am I coming from? Where am I going to? And is there a God? That's what it's just not us that ask that question, James. It's the same thing. The Vulcans want to know. Uh, the Klingons want to know. Everybody wants to know. And this entity, it could have been any type of a god you wanted it to be.
Well, it's just some kind of excommunicated evil entity. Thank you, Jerry, for that. Okay, Jimmy. Uh, Audience members, does anybody have any questions? I haven't really seen too much in there.
You want to put their answers
Uh,
up on the screen, James?
Maybe, but if we get some questions.
I like reading them when they put them
Okay,
on the screen.
sure. Yeah, yes, absolutely. Okay, Star Trek. Div Gel. Okay, said asks, is Star Trek based on real events?
Yes, but it's told from a writer's point of view because when you take an intelligence report that's blacked out, you turn it over to a writer, and then they just fill in the black spaces. But yes, it's based on true events, and the when you see the part where I am communicating with God, word for word, everything that's said is in that movie.
Certainly. Okay. And if you'd like to learn more, go back to the previous video that we did where we were discussing the whole the Loch Ness Monster. I think that wasn't that Star Trek. Oh gosh, was that Star Trek 4 or where they go back in time? Oh gosh, with the whales. Oh my gosh, I should know this. So we're going to. So Jimmy, were there any other movies based off your experiences?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was the Voyage Home, Star Trek 4 with the
I'm
whale.
not going to get into
Okay.
all the titles. I can go into the movies and take out the parts that are real from the fake, and I can explain it. But you have to remember this happened back in the 80s. So I'm a little bit rusty because it's like 45 or more years ago.
Someone in chat's asking, did you get to meet Jesus Christ as well?
Well, if you watched one of our shows, James, where I did a time jump, uh, I never actually met Jesus. I've been in the tomb and I recovered the shroud. We did a show on it. But no, I never actually met Jesus. I was able to obtain the shroud for DNA evidence.
Wasn't it Stuart Swirlow who got to meet Jesus? to get a blood sample, and also he had a gun
He
on him.
he had a what on him?
He had a gun with a bullet, and then also a syringe to collect blood. And Jesus said, You can have my blood. I know why you're here. You can have my blood, but you're not allowed to do to take me out this time."
Well, I can't tell you what was stated between the two men. I was not there. Um, but whatever Stewart says, I would weigh heavily upon what he says and not what you've heard. Now, Stewart did have a syringe. We wanted to get blood samples of before his death and after his death. My orders was to get it after he died. Stewart's orders was to get it before he died. But we don't want to go off into that show because we want to stay on the Star Trek show. They'll
Uh,
have to go back and go into the videos and watch the video for themselves rather than, try to take from this show here.
Very good, Jimmy. Thank you. So let's see here. Any other questions about Star Trek? Did you did Could the Enterprise travel through time?
Yes,
And
it has the ability to time travel.
can you describe a little bit more about some of the places you've seen?
Could you be a little more specific, James?
Okay. Did you go into? Well, I know you said you've been to the future through. That was a whole montage, the Eldridge and all that, but through the Enterprise, uh, maybe 1998, Phoenix, Arizona,
Yeah, 1997. Yeah.
97. Yeah, you want to describe what happened?
Um, yeah, I met with the crew um, outside of Phoenix there when they were seeing the lights. But then again, we don't want to go too far into that because it's another show. But yes, I did meet with them.
Any other questions? Let's see here. Uh, let's see here. I guess I think we're. Oh, Noah's Ark. Have you have any information on Noah's Ark?
Yes, but you have to remember we want to stick with this show here. Um, I have looked in the ark and it's reptilians in the sand.
What do you mean, like where it was buried, all around it? Yeah.
Inside inside the ark is a wood box covered with gold, uh, leaves of gold, sheets of gold around the wood box. Because if it was solid gold, you couldn't lift it. And inside the box is sand with bits of charred remains. And if you take your hands and dip it into the sand and lift it up like sand flowing through your hands or your fingers, uh, you'll have entities, reptilian entities that will come out and fly around it. So when you watch the movie uh, uh, where Harrison Ford is tied up, that is very true. Um, but it makes it sound like that it's something very holy. It is not. It's something very, very evil in the ark.
Well, we were
It's
discussing. Yeah,
reptilian. It's
no,
reptilian spirits.
yeah, Noah's Ark, but for the Ark of Covenant, I mean, we have in the Bible it discuss a God that was very angry and a revenge, a Jehovah that became the original translations of the Bible, going back to early Aramaic and Greek, discussed how God was aroused by the smell of burning flesh because of Cain and Abel the story, and so God liked the burning flesh, and that's because it was a reptilian God, and makes a lot of sense. Like that particular religion, of course, that's based on other religions going back in time.
Well,
Okay,
first of all, your religion has been tampered with. Now, adrenochrome We know that these creatures want to torture us prior to death and to frighten us very bad because it's like adrenochrome is like cocaine to them.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a drug
So,
that rhymes with a popular Google browser.
okay, well, let's not, what I'm trying to say is that when you see Jesus on the cross, they want him to suffer to get adrenochrome. So your religion has been tampered
Yeah,
with.
Jimmy, I said that because you have to use code for the sensors. Yeah,
Oh,
but,
I'm sorry,
if
excuse
you
me.
do know the former, if you go on the Real Raw News, you can dig in there. You can find out what happened to the former CEO of YouTube. But we're gonna leave that for some.
Yeah, so we don't want to get too, we don't want to be censored, you know. We want to respect everybody's religion. Um, I don't try to persuade anybody to follow me, and we all need to respect each other's beliefs. You know,
Okay, so here's a great question: where is the planet Vulcan located?
well, first of all, we don't have any maps of where it's at. Okay, um, we can only see in certain areas of space where our telescopes are pointed. And even if you knew what it was at, it's so far away, you would not live long enough to get to it.
Well, that's if you go like the speed of light or sub, what they call subspace.
Well, right now,
Yeah.
uh, have you seen anybody raise their hand up and say, "Yeah, we got a spacecraft that can go the speed of light"? I mean, nobody raises their hand. So the question, although it's a legitimate question, um, the answer to it is irreverent because we don't have we don't know what's all out there, James, as far as the name of the planets. You can't take the Hubble spacecraft and see what's on the other side of the Earth because the Earth blocks its view.
Oh, do you
And
have any idea how many light years away it is?
James, as I said, the clocks on the Enterprise are different from our timeline. It'd be very hard for me to compare the two clocks.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. Are the Borg based on the Greys, or are they all separate groups?
Well, they're separate groups, James. Think of it like this. Right now, we're seeing transhumanism. All right, you see that there's there's no such thing as a man or a woman. All these different type of sexualities. Okay, that's transhumanism. All right. Well, when you start talking about you know these boars and everything, um, they're they're humans that have been enhanced. Okay. Yeah, there are entities that take body parts and try to you know build uh, build it with a machine. And I believe the little grays probably have attempted it, but it's just not tied to the little grays. It's to any of these different types of alien races.
But can you confirm that the Borg, that is that real, or is that science fiction?
It's real. I've
Did you?
seen them before.
Okay.
Now, if you watch the movie John Titor, um, he we go into underground base and we see humans that are part human and part machine. What is it, Salvation, or what's the name of that movie? Um,
Terminator.
Terminator Salvation, or one of those movies. There's been so many movies put out, James, that I can't keep track of them.
So you're saying the John Titor story could be tied
Twitter.
into the Titor story could be tied into the Terminator series.
Yeah, yeah. Now there never was a Terminator that poured like liquid. Linda Hamilton, actress Linda Hamilton, read the script and she did some LSD and she dreamed that.
Hmm. Wow.
But there are mechanical Terminators, but not the ones that pour. No.
Right. Well, I mean, okay. So in that particular case, are you saying that in most of the timelines in the future, cyborgs eventually take over, or uh, robots, cybernetics?
James, uh, there's a lot of stuff that goes on at Area 51, um, where humans are experimented on, and yes, there's truth to it.
I mean, we've seen like there's a lot of drone craft that now they want it to be taken over by AI, and and then just it takes away the human element in war, which is can be. I think that's very dangerous, right there.
Well, in the future, you're going to see a lot of those drones. If you watch the movie, um, I think the name of it, "We Sleep, They Live," with Randy Pittman in it, we puts on some sunglasses. He can see things that you nobody else can see. I've had those glasses on, and they do give you a headache.
Oh wow! Because didn't he die or the one? There's somebody that had a brutal death of all that. I don't know. It's the
He
director.
died.
I'll-
Randy died not long ago, but I don't I don't have any information. Can we take about a 3 minute break, James?
Well, we could just wrap it up, Jimmy. Let's call it a night.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, if you got to go, I'll just go ahead and do the
Well,
closing.
I just thought you want to take a break, a quick break. But if you
No,
want to wrap
I
it
think
up,
we're done. We're done.
yeah.
Okay. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, Jimmy, for coming on here and sharing another fascinating episode here of the Star Trek universe. And we'll see. We'll bring up some more. I'd be curious to learn about Spock's being cloned. So that'll be interesting. And so, everyone, if you feel like giving, I hope you do. You can donate to my nonprofit, healingsoulsurvivors.org, and the link's in the description. You can also go over to Neological Tech, purchase a copy of my book, Lone Wolf, and that is on sale for another 2 more weeks or so. It's not showing up. And then get a meditation cube to help you relax. They have pyramids inside with all sorts of crystals and orgone material, and they help you relax and enhance your meditation to go into a more deeper, relaxed state of mind because they create more chi energy. Also, the Titans of Atlantis tour is ready. We are live with that website, so I probably should put that in the description when I get off this. And we only have I think we have like 3 more spots left on that tour. And let's see here. I'm going to Los Angeles in April. I should probably put the link to that too for the 5D events. So I'm got to get around to doing that. But it's just been a lot going on, especially with Christmas lately. Uh, anyway, I think that covers everything. And I will see you all.
Uh,
Oh yes, Jimmy.
I was going to say,
Yes.
I am looking for a corporate sponsor, and if anybody is interested in sponsoring me, just get a hold of James, and James knows how to get a hold of me. I'm not going to come and do a conference with you one on one. That's what this is for here. If you're that interested, you can go back and look at some of the earlier interviews that I've done with James. But I am looking for a corporate sponsor, and that's what I want to say there, James.
So go to either supersoldiertalk.com. You can send a message there to contact us. You could go to Healing Soul Survivors. So, well, thank you, Jimmy, for coming on here, and thank you, audience members. We'll all wish you the best. If we don't see you until the new year, I'm pretty sure I might be coming back on here. This might be it, actually. But if not, I wish everyone the best. You all be blessed wherever you are. And yeah, we'll see you all later. Goodbye, everyone. I'll see you all. Hello, everyone. We have LifeWave brand partner Arthur Gross back with us again to share some more about the LifeWave Ala Vida patch. Arthur, what can you tell us about this patch and how does it help with beauty sleep?
James, the Alavita patch is designed to elevate the production of epithelium, a compound that supports various physiological functions. One of the key roles is regulating melatonin production, which in turn helps balance your circadian rhythm, basically, your body's natural sleep wake cycle.
So, in other words, it helps you go to sleep.
Exactly. It's sleep inducing, but it also offers a lot more. The patch supports telomere elongation, which is linked to cellular aging and helps repair chromosomes. This can help a significant impact on the skin, reducing fine lines and wrinkles and promoting firmer, more radiant skin.
Wow, that's quite impressive. Now, maybe you can discuss a little bit more about some of its benefits for your overall appearance.
Absolutely. It improves skin tone, brightens the complexion, and restores a radiant appearance. But it's not just about beauty. The Alavita patch also supports the frontal lobe and adrenal function, and it improves the function of key organs like the thyroid, liver, kidneys, and pancreas. It's a great tool for enhancing metabolism and overall homeostasis in the body.
Wow, it seems like the patch benefits a wide range of bodily functions. Now, could you please explain how it affects the frontal lobe and hypothalamus?
Sure. Research has shown that wearing the Alavita patch significantly improves the functional status of the frontal lobes and hypothalamus. These areas of the brain are critical for decision making, emotional regulation, and hormone balance. The patch also boosts the function of the adrenals, thyroid, and pituitary gland, and liver, which play a roles in maintaining your body's internal balance.
Well, Arthur, that sounds amazing. Is there any data or study that supports any of these claims?
Yes, there are studies that support these findings. The results showed that significant improvements in the functional status is not only the brain, but also key organs like the kidneys and pancreas.
Thank you, Arthur. So, how would someone use the Alavita patch for the best results?
The best time to use it is at night, as it's sleep inducing. It's recommended to wear the patch for 5 consecutive nights, then take 2 nights off. For the best results, place the patch on your right temple.
Got it. Thanks for the tips and great information.
You're welcome, James. Glad I could help.
Please consider supporting Super Soldier Talk by purchasing your own Neo Meditation device. Your Neo Meditation device will help you reduce stress, integrate trauma, enhance intuition, enhance clairvoyance, and enhance creativity. Get yours now at www.neologicaltech.com.